back to the Movie Overload podcast. I don't know why I said that high. Where we cover 100 films in cinema history, from A Trip to the Moon to Parasite and everything in between, except for Woody freaking Allen.
Not that guy. Frick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gross. We keeping it PG.
Frick that.
Frick that.
Yeah, no, it's PG day. We're talking about a movie. Well, the thing is, at this point in the timeline, there's finally a kind of code. So we can't get too aggressive with it. You know,
officially in that
fair.
era.
back in our pre-code episodes, it was fine to say fuck Woody Allen, but now
Even though nobody then really seemed to
Start
be
over.
doing that.
I failed. I'm
guess.
I
so
have
sorry.
stress now. I need
No.
therapy.
I wonder
I'm
if there
sorry, I
was-
didn't mean to do that
You
to
did.
Did
you.
anybody say fuck in pre-code movies? That would be fun.
That would be interesting. I kind of, I want to do a podcast, like Patreon exclusive episodes, just like just going over a bunch of like pre-code, post-code things.
Yeah. The censorship episode.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I definitely think that there's a lot of room for good Patreon episodes for us.
We just
Which
need to make a
Hint,
Patreon.
Is a good and a bad thing.
Side plug.
So,
Oh,
but yeah, we've got what do we have up there? We'll do the horror movie thing. Is that
yeah.
is that just like a commentary on the movie?
I think it should be, like a reaction
live
video,
reaction.
because I just freak out. Like, I cover my eyes and I make weird noises and I just get very scared, even when it's not scary, because I know that it's coming.
Right.
So I
yeah.
don't know if that's entertaining to people, but
we could record it as a live react and edit out the good bits.
Right.
perhaps.
Yeah. Like we could even live stream it.
Mhm.
oh yes, oh yeah, it'll be like a watch party,
Yeah.
but with me being a scaredy pants.
That's pretty cool. And then there's the ASMR movie podcast that's
We love
more
that.
probably topical and current of like, hello, so I just saw Tenet and it was boring or whatever. I mean, I haven't yet.
I was like,
But
what?
Yeah.
my guess,
Hey, maybe.
Shock and
Ba-
awe.
based off of like my track record,
Right.
we don't have to get into that on this podcast. We
Well,
don't have to talk about my feelings on Nolan for another like
I was
2
gonna
years.
say we are
so
talking about Inception later.
We will
Way
eventually.
later.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate because we just saw it because it's showing in the theaters right now, and we have thoughts about it, and we've been talking about it quite a bit. But we're gonna just have to like store all those away and regurgitate them in like several months
Mm-hmm.
when we actually talk about the
Gosh.
movie.
At the point that we're doing that, like the Inception episode is not going to be
Yeah.
for
It's a ways out,
I mean probably.
like a year out, I guess, probably.
I mean
Potentially.
it could be like January 2022 by the time that episode comes out.
It's rough. Yeah,
Dang.
we're in this for the long haul.
Yeah.
The
'Cause,
long
like, it
haul.
doesn't feel that bad when you're like, oh, it's 100 movies. You're like, oh, it's not that bad. But then if you're only like, I do one a week, and like, there's not that many weeks in a year. It's like half that.
Uh-huh.
So,
Pretty nearly 2 years.
Yep.
it's crazy.
Which I mean,
What have we gotten ourselves into?
yeah.
Oh no.
I mean,
I
you know, I tried to make you guys aware of that when I started this
was
concept.
aware of it.
I'm,
But,
I'm
you know,
aware. The
Now
fact that-
yeah.
Yeah, the fact that we can plan ahead,
Right.
Mhm.
not bank episodes.
Oh gosh, no, never.
Never that.
We would never do that.
But we're
Ever.
prepared. We're fine.
Yeah. It is. Yeah, I'm glad that it is kind of an evergreen thing
Yeah.
Yes.
because it does allow for, say, somebody to go to Switzerland for 3 months.
Yeah.
Which,
Not
may or
specifically.
not. I mean, I guess just, I didn't mean, or anything else,
Yeah. Whatever.
Someone could also go to the dentist office for 3 months or,
I would.
yeah.
That
Yes.
sounds horrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I would die. That's terrifying.
Do you have pretty messed up teeth? Or
No, I just don't like the dentist.
Hmm.
They're like, "Why are you bleeding?" And they're like stabbing your gums.
Right.
I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, they're always so mean about that. It's
Yeah.
like, well, it's not my fault,
I'm like, I don't know.
Last time the dentist insulted my genetics last time I was there.
Rude.
They're like, yeah, like you've, unfortunately you seem to have the gene that like has more plaque buildup and all this other stuff. So you have to come here twice as often as normal people.
Ew.
And I was like, but can I not?
Yeah.
Like
Not
I
do
didn't
that.
do
What if I
that to
brush
myself.
really good?
You
Yeah,
know?
you didn't ask for that.
And I mean, yeah, it makes sense. Anyway, dental issues aside, I don't have great genetics.
I'm very
So,
sorry.
Yeah, that's why
It's okay.
that's why this is an audio podcast.
We love you
No
anyways.
one has to see me. be horrified.
And our teeth.
You know, first thought is just, man, that guy's got bad genetics. You can just tell instantly the pastiness
That's what
of
I
my
thought
skin.
when I first met you.
That's why
It's like, dang,
Hannah
that kid has horrible
is-
genetics.
Which, you know, you were friends with my sister for a while before you
I
even
picked
met
up
me.
with her
so
right
you-
away.
yeah.
I'm just
see.
kidding. I love you,
Well-
sister of the podcast.
Oh, poor Mirren.
family
perfection.
pod.
She's a queen.
Dang.
Anyway,
Well, I mean, I don't think we can get past the fact that you just insulted my sister. I mean, it might be the end of the podcast. And we could just wrap it up now.
Oops.
I was just
I
trying
think
to
we're
insult
done
you, and
here.
you made the tie that you're related. I'm sorry.
It was my plan all along. I didn't want to do 100
I
episodes of
fell
this.
right
I was like, oh
into your
gosh,
trap.
I've got to figure out a way to end this fast.
I'll get Hannah to insult my sister.
Ugh.
That's all good.
All right.
We're
Well,
fine.
it might be time to get onto the main
I
topic.
guess.
Possibly.
All right, let's have it.
Let's see how ready we are. Okay. A Star is Born. Ooh. Is a 1937 American Technicolor romantic drama directed by William Wellman. And there are now a total of 4 versions of the film. This is the first and only version that's not a musical. And the 1937 movie won the Academy Award for Best Original Story and shows us an up-close look at what it's like to be a celebrity in America while also showing us how addiction affects relationships.
Dang.
Abstract
Is good times.
rating.
I give that abstract an 8.9 out of 8.8. So
I'll take it.
that's pretty
Oh,
good.
nice. Yeah, and I have a plot summary with spoilers.
We certainly should say at the offset now that we are getting into movies that are kind of plot based, and
feel like it
that
matters
tends to be
more
the
now,
trend in
yeah.
film.
Yeah,
From this
what's up
point
with
on?
that?
So, you know, if we were going to talk about something that happens later in the general, might not matter too much for you,
Right.
but at this point, it might affect your experience. So if you haven't seen the film yet, and that doesn't bother you, then like, all good. We've got the summary here. But if you know you don't want to be spoiled on any of the 4 versions of this movie that exist,
Exactly.
then like
It sums up all 4 of them.
maybe go elsewhere.
Basically.
Cool.
yeah.
Anyway, let's have that summary.
Okay. We'll see how I do. A Star is Born follows the story of an aging male celebrity dealing with addiction who meets a young, talented, aspiring star, in this version, aspiring actress. In other versions, it's singer. They fall in love as he simultaneously opens the door she needs to pursue her career. While she begins to experience massive success, we watch Norman, his career decline, and the two end up getting married when Norman promises to give up drinking, but he gives into the addiction again as the pressures of the industry and lack of career success builds tension. After overhearing Esther, the girl, after overhearing Esther's plan to abandon her acting career to take care of him, Norman commits suicide. Esther chooses to continue her career after his death.
Is a good summary. That does.
decent.
I think that hits pretty much every major beat except for how iconic the grandma is.
Yes, she's
Oh,
so good.
yes.
Oh,
Definitely
loved her so much.
should be mentioned.
Oops. I appreciate her so
She's
much.
kind of great. Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Great
I
lines.
was like, oh yeah, they have names, Esther and Norman,
Mm-hmm.
in this version.
Granny.
Is that the names in the other versions?
They
do you know?
are not.
Hmm.
I actually don't know what the ones after this are. It's Jack and Allie in the new one.
Oh. I
Jack
see.
and Allie?
Mm-hmm.
Why? I think it's. I don't want to have to get into it now, but I already think I prefer the names from the 1937
Esther
version.
and Norman, they're definitely
Yeah.
old-fashioned
But like
names.
Vicky Lester
Yeah,
as
true.
an
her, like,
actress
star
name,
Mhm.
Norman Maine. I
Norman
like
Maine.
it.
Main's
know.
really good.
Yeah.
Let's see.
think
In the
that's a pretty
50s
solid
one,
one.
it's also Esther and Norman.
Hmm.
And then in the 70s one with Barbara Streisand, it's John Norman Howard
So it's got a Norman.
and Esther.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's
I
funny.
like
that
So
they,
it's just this
threw
new
it in there.
version. Yeah.
yeah.
Mixing it up,
Yeah,
I guess.
the remix.
I have heard that the Barbara Streisand one is probably the worst one.
Hmm.
Really?
Yeah. At least,
Come on, Barb.
from the bit that I've heard. But I could be wrong about that. I don't know.
I would watch both of those because Barbra Streisand's pretty iconic in the Broadway world, and Judy Garland is
oh heck yeah,
huge. So be interesting.
I'm definitely down to see all of the versions. I think now, because at least this one worked for me, and if any of them work as well or better, then that's cool. Also, very interesting to note that. I mean, I don't know if that's every version of this movie, but you did say it was a Technicolor movie. Like, is this one of the earlier color pictures out there?
Yeah, when I looked up when like the first Technicolor movies were, it said as early as 1917.
Whoa.
Oh,
but
okay.
I was like, So I think this was probably one of the first big like blockbusters to be in color, though. I think people were dabbling in color. Like, even with A Trip to the Moon, he would go over his film and color it, right?
Right.
But this was the first Technicolor. I don't know. Don't take my word for it. But I'm assuming that this was one of the first ones.
Yeah,
and
probably one of the earlier, like, full-length Hollywood pictures.
And Janet Gaynor, am I saying it right? Gaynor?
I think so.
Yeah. Who plays Esther. It was her only Technicolor film she was ever in.
Dang.
So they were not popular. But it looked good.
Yeah. And I think coming up after this, we have like Snow White, Wizard of Oz, movies that start to like very specifically use color. But it's also interesting because I think, on the list, like there's stuff going all the way up into the 50s and 60s, maybe even the 70s that are in black and white.
Yep, for sure.
So it just didn't seem like it was this kind of thing of like seen exactly as like, this is an advancement in technology, and once we can afford to do that, we're just going to do that. It almost seems like it was more seen as a creative decision to choose either, which I kind of like. I kind of think that that's how that should be looked at more, because I think people just generally these days tend to default to just like, oh yeah, color. That's just how we do stuff. And then there's like a few here and there that are black and white, and that's like almost a gimmick in some ways.
Kind of, yeah.
And I like that being like, at the offset of the film, is this going to be color or black and white? We can do either. They are both valid options. One of them is not outdated. Anyway.
Yeah, that's interesting to think about.
Like my favorite movie, which is also on there, Frances Ha, is black and white. And I almost never really think about the fact that it's black and white. Like I think about the cinematography, but it's a modern movie that just feels like that fits its creative decisions,
Or there was like The Lighthouse last year in black and white, and like a 4:3 aspect ratio, which was also great. And that just kind of helped it fit as like more of a period piece than it already was, I feel like.
Right.
And it lent to the execution of that even more so.
Yeah, there's a lot of things about the production of that movie that feel like it's almost even more like it's made in an earlier period as well.
Like it gives that texture to it.
Yeah.
Just in the way that you watch it. It's great.
Anyway, enough about the Lighthouse and black and white movies. This one is actually in color.
It is interesting though. Yeah, just like that we had it as early as this or before, and just that like it wasn't immediately adopted.
I looked it up again, and we definitely had other color films before this, but this one was popular.
Any notable ones?
I didn't really notice any. The version of The Three Musketeers, a few foreign films. It looked like we're doing it.
That's cool.
Before us, maybe. So
interesting.
We caught on.
We did.
And
very notably, this is a very Hollywoody kind of movie. Yeah, like
especially
it's almost
because it's about their lives in the Hollywood world of Hollywood. It just felt so classic.
It's kind of interesting because we've only really covered a few U.S. movies at this point anyway, but there's already like this very strong kind of mythology to Hollywood that we see in La La Land and just a bunch of, even stuff in the 50s like with Singing in the Rain and that kind of stuff, like having this sort of I guess mythology is probably
it feels
the
sort
right
of
word.
Universal, like it feels sort of universal. Like just it's even if I can't point to a specific thing that like depicts that like mythology, like you say, like I feel like it's just there, and I've picked it up from a lot of different media over the years. Like, I don't know. It's interesting. It's definitely still out there in many ways.
Right.
Yeah.
But, like the fact that this movie like even includes like the Walk of Fame and like Grauman's Chinese Theater and all that kind of thing is really neat.
And the Hollywood Bowl I mean, the Hollywood Bowl is still there. People do like huge
Nice.
theater performances there. They do concerts there. Like I always am seeing theater updates from the Hollywood Bowl. So seeing them sit down in that in the film was really cool. I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't even think about how long that it's been there.
Yeah.
Being used in the same way. Like that was really cool.
Yeah. It's crazy how much history there is there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think when I started it, I was super into it because I love old movies like this, like Singing in the Rain. And it had that vibe of just, she's an aspiring actress. And I was like, oh, yes, this is like made for me. And then it's cute and vintage and perfect. And I don't know, their love story is great. And then they tie in all of the really heavy topics. And I was like, oh, shoot.
Yeah.
I didn't use the dirty word. I almost did.
Oh, shoot.
Oh, shoot. Like, just, I don't know. I just appreciated the heaviness of it.
Yeah, it is interesting because it doesn't feel like it goes all the way into like being a melodrama.
Yeah, definitely.
But it's just totally comfortable dealing with like the heavier things. And it, I mean, especially just like the fact that she's an aspiring actress and they're like, you know, no one has any jobs and it just feels like this impossible task to like possibly get a job.
Right.
And her buddy being like, I got you a job as a waitress. And it sounds like it's like a one night job and it's like $5 is what it pays. And it's like, that's pretty good.
Right.
Or the guy's like, you got $11. You're buying me a drink.
I'm like, wow.
When he's down to like, what did he say? His last nickel or something.
Well, yeah, like, and yeah, thinking of the waitress job, like the aspiring actress waiting tables, so cliche. And then just even how her family was with her, like, get your head out of the clouds. It's not realistic, blah, blah, blah. I was like, oh my gosh, the stereotype has been there for like 100 years.
Yeah.
Like, me and my friends deal with this all the time too. It just hasn't changed.
Right.
Like the industry and how you get into it, it's all the same.
Yeah, that in a way makes it feel like maybe the way that it works is pretty outdated at this point. Like, is there a better way? There has to be.
I mean, her getting in through a connection is really still the best way to get into the business.
Rough.
I don't know how they did things back then with agents and stuff, so it was kind of interesting thinking about that, like how the film industry was set up initially and how we run it today. But just those criticisms and like being a star was still the impossible dream, you know?
Do you know if it's still that way where like she didn't, I don't know, like it was almost like she didn't have much talent.
Yeah.
But they were like, you know, in the way that like you'd manufacture like a pop artist, it was like, all right, let's figure out your look and like teach you how to speak and act. And like they were like giving her all this, you know, training.
Yeah.
Is that how it still is now? Or is it just like, you're here because we liked your, you know, trial, whatever, you know?
The audition.
Audition. Gosh, how did I lose that word?
I think it's a mix of both now. And I feel like I was reading that about the director actually had thoughts about that. He was like talking about casting and said there was some quote from him how he wasn't all about talent. He was more about, do they have like a star personality? Do they have charm? And are they good at talking to people and having that presence about them? And now today, I think it's a good mix because there's so much talent trying to make it in the film industry that it's like you can find people that are charming and know how to act publicly and are good actors.
Right.
But I think being kind and interesting as a person will carry you farther than just being a good actor.
Gotcha.
So, and if you're a jerk, you're going to shoot yourself in the foot.
Yeah, unless you happen to be, I don't know.
Incredible.
Or just a white guy.
True.
So is there anybody working today that has like a reputation for just being a total asshole?
I mean,
I've heard a few different people.
I'm sure there are.
I mean, Mel Gibson. I don't know if he's still doing anything.
Yeah, I've heard some negative things actually about Johnny Depp and Katherine Heigl. I've heard is a nightmare to work with. Yes.
Interesting.
But she was huge in Grey's Anatomy and 27 Dresses and all her movies and things.
Indeed.
I've heard like there was a decent amount of difficulty between Ralph Fiennes and Wes Anderson.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if that's just that he's generally challenging to work with, or just he didn't like Wes Anderson's very particular thing. Yeah, but also Edward Norton, I've heard, is like really rough to deal with.
Oh yeah, I've heard that too.
I think I remember that. Yeah.
So.
I can see that.
Interesting.
He just looks a little mean.
But apparently, he works pretty well with Wes Anderson, and Wes Anderson is good with dealing with him.
Okay, so you just need to find your crowd.
Yeah, maybe. Huh.
Well.
Anyway, so if you're a white man, maybe being an asshole isn't going to completely destroy your career every time.
Hopefully. Now everyone's all big into casting like big diverse projects. So if you're white, now is not the time to go into acting.
Which is kind of rad.
Yeah.
For sure. So.
Segue. That wasn't really a segue, actually.
I mean, so, it's kind of a transition word.
But,
Speaking of transition words.
Well, I was just going to talk more about the director since I mentioned him already. Because he just sounded exciting. So his name was William Wellman. But before he got into movies, he was known as Wild Bill. And he had this, like, Spad Fighter plane thing. And he lived in San Diego, but he would fly his little plane over to Hollywood and had a friend by the name of Fairbanks. He would just land in that guy's polo field.
Who has a polo field?
I know. I was like, I guess all the people in Hollywood were just living it up. And he was like, I'm going to fly to Hollywood every weekend. So Wild Bill would just take his little plane, wherever the heck he got that, and hang out with this guy who lived in Hollywood. And that guy was all, I'm super fascinated by you and your plane and all the exciting things that you're always doing. I'm going to recommend you in the movie business. So he got him a job as an actor. So he started out acting.
Gotcha.
And I think it was small roles and extras. Like he was a young officer in Evangeline in 1919. But from that movie, he was fired for slapping Miriam Cooper.
Oh man.
Which was the film's star and also the wife of the production's director.
Oh my gosh.
So he was not a successful actor. And he decided he hated being an actor because he thought it was an unmanly profession. More toxic masculinity.
Sounds
for you.
Great. Really like this guy.
So great. And he did not like watching himself on screen. So
that's fair.
So he moved into directing. He has some uncredited directorial work in 1920, The Twins of Suffering Creek. I think it's his debut. Never heard of it.
Not either.
Yeah. But, I mean, he ended up being pretty innovative. This was actually pretty cool because he was really into the planes, obviously. So he made this movie called Wings, I believe is what it was called, and it led to several firsts in filmmaking, including newly invented camera mounts that could be secured to planes and motor-driven cameras to shoot actors while flying.
That's cool.
Awesome.
Yeah. And then he also had another one. Yeah, so he did a lot of work with planes in his movies, and then there was one where he would sit under the camera on a dolly with a mic between his legs, essentially inventing a shotgun mic. And then I think he was one of the first people to hook a mic on a broomstick, and he would hold it up.
Really?
Like we do now. Yeah.
Interesting.
So
that's crazy.
He was, so he definitely made a difference in how we, I don't know, film fast moving things and record audio.
Gosh, I never would have thought about the fact that somebody needed to invent like the motor camera, like, because before you'd have to crank it, and that's so weird.
I know.
Like, I guess they showed that in King Kong where he's like cranking it as he's talking to her, and I was like, do you have to do that the whole time?
True.
And I guess so. It's weird.
Not anymore.
Haha.
Thanks, William.
Thanks, boy.
You the best.
In some ways.
Yeah. Don't slap people.
Yeah.
Women.
Don't.
That's like.
Yeah, it's not really great.
Mean. Whatever.
It's kind of rough, you know.
So much sexism in this decade.
Surprisingly, a decent amount of agency for the female lead in this film, though.
Yeah.
Yes, I was very impressed. I mean, she's incredible. They were both nominated for Best Actor, Best Actress
Really?
For the Oscars. They did not win, but
tragic.
I think she won an Oscar for one of her other movies, and she was like Hollywood's it girl for a long time. Like, it was just her in everything. But after being in A Star Is Born, I think she went from playing a lot of more innocent roles to playing heavier roles. So this was definitely her turning point, which was cool to read about.
That is very interesting.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever heard of her before.
I hadn't either, which was weird because I think of myself as being super into old movies like this. But I guess I hear more names from like the 50s
right
than the 30s.
Yeah, and that's also something kind of interesting is like that like the 50s and 60s have kind of become old movies in our heads, especially like in this generation. And like especially before starting this podcast, like I would have thought of an old movie and I would have thought more like Roman Holiday or that kind of thing. Yeah, that's me. But like that's not really old movies in comparison to, when we're talking about, A Trip to the Moon or Metropolis or King Kong or this. It's like it's a very different kind of brand of early movie where they're still like inventing how to make movies at this point,
Yeah.
So it is kind of interesting to be like the it girl of Hollywood, like right when Hollywood is like
starting
figuring itself out,
in the 30s.
Although it's surprising how much there actually is that's already kind of sorted out with the way that Hollywood works. But
yeah, for sure. And yeah, that stereotype again of how actors have to get into it was already in place. Also, just like it reminded me, I mean, there were definitely moments, I think even just in the acting, that reminded me of like moments in Singing in the Rain.
Yeah,
it's
same.
Like, that's a fairly big time jump.
Yeah,
but here we are in the 30s, still had those vibes.
Seems like not much really changed between then.
I don't think so. Yeah.
Which is probably a gap of like what, 15 years maybe?
Yeah, I think so. Around there.
Which is, I mean, I guess that's kind of fair. Like if we look back to what films looked like 15 years before now, they were pretty close to how they look now.
True.
Like, closer, they're a bit uglier.
Definitely. Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, other than that,
not that much worse or that much different.
Right.
I think the editing styles and a lot of stuff. Like obviously the farther back you go, like early 2000s maybe would be kind of rough, but like mid 2000s, late 2000s, not that much different, I don't think.
Yeah. But I mean, even depending, like some of the better looking things then hold up pretty well now. Like I'm always surprised every time I go back to, which this probably isn't talked about very much as like one of the better films of the 2000s, but Stranger Than Fiction, like even all like the weird little graphic things and that kind of stuff in that movie hold up surprisingly well now, like 15 years later.
Totally.
And I mean, obviously looking at like a Peter Jackson film, those tend to hold up pretty well.
Like Lord of the Rings, it's
I mean,
it's never going to be
Return of the King probably still looks better than Battle of Five Armies. So.
Yeah.
But that's because Battle of Five Armies is ugly. But we don't need to get into that ever.
Not yet. No, we can talk about it when we talk about those movies.
Yeah, we'll
cover.
talk about at least one of them.
Yay!
Would have been kind of cool to like do more of them, but
maybe
I guess not. We could. That's a question for you guys. It's kind of off topic. Do you think that we should do like movies that were all filmed together as one movie? Like, should we, because the Lord of the Rings trilogy was all filmed at the same time,
right,
should we talk about it as one movie?
I might argue in favor of that specifically also because I don't think Hannah has fully watched those yet.
I have watched them. I just fall asleep every time.
How are you related to Hunter?
I don't know.
And you haven't seen them all.
So good.
Okay, I've sat down to watch all three of those movies. One time I even sat down to watch the extended versions with friends. I always fall asleep.
That's so
weird.
rough.
I'm sorry.
It was always in like a social setting.
Gotcha.
So like it was, there was the one time where it was just like, oh, we're watching it with friends. And then there was the other time where we're like,
sit down and watch it is because it was a social thing.
Like the most recent time was when we marathoned the extended versions with friends, which is hard.
That sounds really
so
rough.
I don't recommend that we do that. But I think if we take them one at a time, we can watch the theatrical cuts
I say
I would
theatrical.
recommend that you start with the theatrical cuts, honestly.
They're like such great napping movies, though.
Oh,
Like
I guess.
pretty music and pretty scenery.
Yeah.
Mirren saw them and she fell in love, and they're some of Mirren's favorite movies.
They're so good. Like,
I'm sorry,
if you
Miriam.
just give
also,
them a
sorry,
real go.
Zach.
So
Shout out
in-
to that friend of the
No.
pod. I
Yeah.
continuously
So.
disappoint
like
with my inability to stay awake during Lord of the Rings.
so yeah. I don't know if there's any other examples of that kind of specific thing on the list.
There might
but
be.
at
It'd be
least
worth
it-
checking, but
yeah.
most things that I think we have on the list were not
I think,
like
yeah,
all
they're
filmed at the
usually-
same time.
Right. They're usually pretty standalone.
If
I
we
think.
had the Hobbit movies, if we had
I
the
liked those.
Matrix sequels, which why would we
Mm.
have those on the 100
No,
movies list?
That's
but
okay.
you know, there are some examples of stuff like that. Oh yeah, the
Hey,
last
we
two
have
Pirates,
100
Oh.
the second and
movies.
the third Pirates movies.
Interesting. I didn't
Yeah.
know that. Cool. That makes sense. I need to rewatch those. But yeah, I would argue that we could watch and at least to some length discuss all 3 Lord of the Rings movies.
Heck yeah.
That's a big task, though. That's a lot of movie.
At least by
Yeah.
then, hopefully we won't be banking. I mean, not that we are now.
We
but
never do that.
we would never do something like that. But just you know,
But
at
yeah.
least we don't have to cover, say, you know, another episode after this, you know, in the same day, potentially, you know.
Right.
We aren't taking, you know, specific days off of work to
Right.
all come together and record multiple episodes at a time. So we could just, you know, feasibly do one movie
Yeah.
Right.
episode on the Lord of the
Of
Rings.
course.
Yeah.
We could do it. Anyway,
All
Just
good
as an
things.
example.
that's the
Yeah.
planning corner of this podcast episode.
It really, yeah, it has so much to do with The Star is Born that I'm really glad we got this
Mhm.
conversation out of the way now.
Important.
Mhm.
Anyway, what were we talking about?
I don't know. A Star is Born.
Oh, how it looks. It looks nice.
But yeah, it
Wow.
looks
It
pretty
does.
good. And okay, well, the earlier scenes were kind of ugly. I don't know if that was just for me, but
No,
like
yeah.
the
No,
lighting
I
was really
agree.
dim, and you couldn't tell
It's
what
kind
was
of the
going
same color.
It's like he figured it out as he went along.
on. Yeah, it like did get better looking as the
Mhm.
movie went. Which at first I was like, this looks bad, and why did they bother making this in color? But also, why did I put this movie on the list? Does it
Mhm.
deserve to be here? And then, as we went along, I was like, okay, yeah.
Why do
And-
you think it deserves to be here, Reese?
Well, I mean, mostly just because A Star is Born has become like just kind of a symbol of Hollywood,
Mm-hmm.
just based off of it
I agree.
having a version in pretty much every era
Mhm.
of Hollywood. It kind of feels important to have in there.
Mm-hmm.
And at least of what I've seen, it's kind of debated, but I generally tend to see this one considered like people's favorite version.
Yeah.
At least in the circles that I'm in. I think a lot of people really like the Judy Garland one, but I was also like, why have the Judy Garland one? Because we're in a few weeks, we'd be doing Wizard of Oz anyway.
Mhm.
Yes. And Singing in the Rain. So we're getting musicals
Yeah.
covered.
So it just didn't feel exactly required for that era. However, as a you know, as a 30s movie, I feel like this one is pretty significant,
Mm-hmm.
even if it's not like, you know, the best ever film.
Yeah.
You know, it still represents something, I guess.
I guess some people argue that there's another film called What Price Hollywood? Question mark.
Hmm.
It's like a question. Sorry, that sounded
What
like I
Price
was saying-
Hollywood?
I
It's
like
like,
the title
What Price
has a
Hollywood
question mark in it.
is the title.
Huh.
Yeah.
It's a question that came out in 1932, and people are saying it just has a lot of similarities,
Gotcha.
and that they think A Star is Born wasn't completely original, that they drew a lot from that movie. So that's like the OG A Star is Born.
Gotcha. That's interesting. I
But-
haven't heard of that one.
Yeah, me neither. And this one won Academy Award for Best Original Story. So
Right.
Could be a case of accidental plagiarism,
Could be.
or just people
There's
kind of had the same
actually-
ideas, or maybe,
Mhm.
I don't know. I kind of want to watch that movie now just to see. I think it just addresses like themes of Hollywood, and then I guess there was some inspiration from some actress and her husband who was an alcoholic producer. So I'm not sure what their plot is, but there's also different like theories on what A Star is Born was based off of. A lot of like film historians believe that the marriage of Barbara Stanwyck and Frank Fay was the film's real life inspiration. Yeah, I think it got bad. He was like a drunk and a wife beater, but they were both into movies.
Gotcha.
And
That's
so,
rough.
yeah.
It's
kind of sad how many little theories of inspiration there are actually for the story.
Yeah.
Because it's pretty sad and dark, but...
It's like already by 1937, there's just like a massive amount of like alcoholism and like semi to fully failed marriages in Hollywood.
Yeah, in the world of celebrities, and pretty sad.
Mm-hmm. Which, I mean, is kind of still it's still a thing now, which makes it almost feel worse. It's like, man, this story is depressingly familiar, but also like we've had 80 plus years to not.
It's just like, I mean, it's just kind of the problem of dealing with human beings, I think.
Yeah.
Like you have people in all of these roles and positions, and sometimes they have problems, and sometimes they have problems together.
Hooray.
So,
and maybe the only difference is that, with celebrities and stuff, it's reported on and is in the public eye,
Yeah. Oh, man.
We're just more aware of it. And also it's more enabled because of more money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I feel like the Johnny Depp Amber Heard thing is like a really weird example of that too.
It is.
Because that's like also showing how it can kind of be manipulated and towards one side.
Yeah.
Because that came out first where it was like, it looked like Johnny Depp was the bad guy. What's up?
What was that?
Oh, so a while back, there was some stuff that came out where like, are they married? Or something?
I don't know if they were.
They were. So Johnny Depp and Amber Heard are together, and there's some stuff coming out that he's like abusing her. Like she's accusing of him of all this stuff, and there's this long, like drawn out legal battle. I don't know all the details, but somewhat more recently, probably within the last like year or two, there was some more stuff that came out that seemed like it was the opposite was true. Like there was some recordings and stuff that were like, oh, like she was actually hurting him, and he was more or less passive in those moments. Like there were fights and arguments, and she was the more violent one. So it's kind of been flipped with the evidence that changed. So, but she was totally spinning it early on as like, no, he's hurting me. Like he's the bad guy, and it's weird.
But it really did like it's really damage Johnny Depp's career.
Yeah,
like
I'm sure.
He's bit for a while.
I don't even think he's still signed on to the next Pirates movie, and people were like, why would they have cast him in Fantastic Beasts?
Yeah, that was
like
the
he sucks. He's the worst.
Right, and totally it was like a problem for a while, but now he's kind of hopefully coming back in. Like I think it's kind of hard to change opinion. Like make a big change like that, but
it's surprising. Well, I mean,
that seems to be what
the recordings that came out were like pretty definitive and
so.
Like lengthy enough that it didn't feel like they're taking out of context. Where she's just like, this kind of
yelling
like
at him, and he seems pretty calm.
Yeah, like I'm gonna beat the crap out of you. He's like, please no, like I love you. I don't want this. And she's like, nah, you suck. I hate you.
That's scary.
And And but like to the point where she's literally just like, yes, I beat you. I'm the one that beats you in these recordings. Right. Like,
oh my gosh, so this is blatant.
Yeah. And she's like, and because you don't fight back, and just like quite literally just spelling it all out.
Yeah,
and
it was a mess.
It's convenient.
It's just, but yeah, like stuff like that comes out, and like, we might have only one person's word to go off of, especially like back then when there weren't really like recordings of stuff that was getting released to the public, and now there are, so we can kind of get different sides of things. And I don't know, it's hard to know what's all really happening all the time, and it kind of doesn't matter.
Yeah, like it is other people's lives that we're in a weird way intruding upon.
Yeah, but also it's like, I want people to be okay.
Right.
And to not be abused in general. Don't abuse anybody. It's bad.
Yeah, so, we don't want to like enable abusers as well. So it's like that kind of thing being, at least in some sense, in the public light can be a good thing for preventing that, or at the very least stopping it in its tracks, maybe.
Yeah, hopefully.
Who knows?
Anyway, sorry.
We're here to deal with the very like intense topics here.
Right. I know there's so much more stuff that we still need to get to. So sorry. Yeah, we can get back on that.
We should like touch on the heaviness of the plots, because I think that's so interesting.
Let's get to the ones that are actually in the movie.
Yes.
I guess more so, literally.
Right.
Definitely, like, now that there's, like, some kind of code authority and, very specific about what they're allowed to include or not, it's for the most part, it feels like this is presented in a much more upbeat way in general. Mm-hmm. Like, I was surprised with how it, in talking about these really heavy topics, was not really going into a lot of the consequences of these things in a weird way. Like, yeah, she was gonna kind of give up her career to take care of him,
right?
But they didn't have any kind of, like, for example, marital issues come out of it.
Right.
Like, they were both, like, fully as much as they could be, like, sacrificial for each other, and
right. True.
And it didn't really entirely feel like real life. It still was in this weird fanciful zone, even though some heavy stuff was happening. And I wonder if that part of that's censor boards at the time.
True.
Trying to make it not as dark as it could have been.
It felt kind of fast too, like certain moments of that. And it's like, okay, you're tying in these really heavy topics, but you're clipping through some of the things that would add the most weight to those moments. So yeah, I agree. There were definitely, like, scenes that could have been in there.
Like, his alcoholism comes back. Like, it's weird because he seemed like almost for years he had been off of it. And then something happens, and then he's like, give me a
drink.
bottle of... Yeah. And then he's like, gone for 4 days, and then he comes back, and then, yeah. But it's just, like, within a week, span of a week, it's just all over.
Yeah, it just felt rushed, I think. I think that's why this version didn't hit me as much emotionally, because I haven't seen the 50s or 70s version, but I have seen the new one with Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper. Mm-hmm. And that one, like, I cried in the movie theater.
Right.
So, but it was not the same for, like, Hunter. So, I know it just is everyone's taste, maybe.
I don't know.
It hits everyone differently.
I mean, obviously, the audience, you can't see Hunter, but the face that he's making is like
awkward grin.
Like discomfort.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. The 2018 one just, it didn't totally work for me. I may have been biased because I didn't care for the music side of it. Like, that just is not my kind of thing. And all that other stuff. Like, it was not a movie made for me. I so that's okay. And then it just overall did not affect me. I didn't feel like I got it, I guess. Whereas this one, like, I wouldn't say that I had a strong emotional response in either case, but this one just, I felt like I got it more. Just, at least, I don't know. I don't know anything about music or the music industry, but it was funny just seeing it as, like, about movies, at least, trying to make that point of, like, it's a place and an industry where it's, like, really cool, fantastic things can happen, but it can also beat you down pretty bad, like, depending on how you're kind of viewed by the public in general, or just the people working with you. And I don't know, like, it just, he went through a lot of crap. He had his rough times where he was kind of abrasive with people, but it was also just kind of like, because he was a has-been, became that, like, he fell out of success, then people started, like, treating him worse, and it's just like, there's this bitterness there.
Yeah, like his the publicist guy.
Yeah, like, there's no fault specifically, I feel like, but it's just kind of the way that things are and the way that the perception changes, and it kind of breaks a person down, and it's cool. And I got that this time, and I thought that was interesting, I guess.
Yeah, I guess I can't really speak to what the 2018 version is like, but I have heard critiques from people that aren't just you about it being maybe melodramatic in a forced way, and that, like, depending on who you are, it either works or it comes off like it kind of rubs you the wrong way.
Yeah. And I guess I feel like just remembering it kind of came across to me that way. I would need to watch it again to really say, because it's been 2 years-ish, but I don't know if I care enough to watch it again.
Well, I mean, I'm kind of down to see.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see
the
what you think
versions
about
after this. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
We should watch them all in order.
That could be an interesting time. Also, could be a Patreon miniseries.
I agree. I second
like
that.
An episode of just like every A Star Is Born. Again, that'll be on our $1,000 tier.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, if you are interested,
let's at least wait until we're not banking episodes.
Because we don't do that.
No.
Right.
But
Yeah.
like,
we would never do that.
if we were hypothetically doing it, that would be already a lot of movies, and then
It would be a
adding
lot
on
to
more.
do at once,
A
so
lot
we'd
of
probably
bonus
want to wait.
day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Eventually.
It is certainly possible, I think, probably
know.
for us to record more than one episode in a week if
Mhm.
we were going to do Patreon things. But it's a bit more challenging if, say, we were already to be recording, like, say, 3 in a Monday, which, of course, we never would do.
Never.
Ever.
But one day.
But one day we
could
might.
do like 2.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree.
Anyway.
Interesting.
Also, to make a comment about how hard it hit people, because you're
Mhm.
right, Reese. I think it does depend on like who you are and what you've been through.
Mhm.
Because like the suicide scene, I think didn't hit me the same as the scenes with the alcoholism.
Mhm.
Like it just
Gotcha.
depends on like the people you've known or relationships you've had, but also just the acting has evolved so much.
Mm.
If that makes sense, like Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga were pretty phenomenal. I don't know what Hunter thought. I thought that they were stellar acting
I don't really have any
performances in the
complaints.
2018 version. Not that these people were bad. I think it just has that old-fashioned,
Right.
not as vulnerable, intimate
And
experience.
yeah,
as
like we were talking
today.
about, there's a lot more. I think we were talking about that back, maybe the Metropolis episode. We were talking about kind of the realism
Yes.
being more of a thing at this time,
Yeah.
specifically our present moment,
Mm-hmm.
and Hollywood not really having that quite as much.
Yeah.
It almost feels like Hollywood's taking more from the German expressionism we were talking about in
Yeah,
a way
or
of
it's
just like
so
trying to make
little
something.
Theatrical almost or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just wasn't as easy to empathize with as
Mhm.
it is today. So I think that's probably
Yeah.
another reason
Yeah.
why it hits different.
Right.
Hits
fair.
different.
Which could be an intent, I guess, because
Yeah.
they definitely don't seem like they're wanting to destroy your soul, you
Yeah.
know?
But I want them to. I was like, please wreck me.
Just wreck
I
me.
want to be
Yeah.
devastated at the end of this film.
Right. Yeah. But I think it was weird because the more dramatic moment at the end of the film
Mhm.
ended up being her grandma coming back and talking to her
Yeah.
and saying like, hey, there's a certain amount of heartbreak that happens in this world, and to have your dreams come true, that's going to have some sort of payout somewhere. Like
Right.
it's going to have some benefits and it's going to have some drawbacks, and that's
Yeah.
just how it is, and you can't just give up because of something that's hard that happens to you. And I think
Right.
that's more what they were trying to spout at the audience, rather
Right.
than like, so
It's
sad. Yeah.
I agree.
So it does feel like kind of an
Mhm.
intentional choice on the part of the writers.
That's true. Well, and just the whole title, A Star is Born, it's like one dies and one is born. Like this constant churn of who's in the world of celebrities.
Hmm.
Yeah. I liked the last line of her, like how she introduces herself, like she honors him, like even though there were such negative moments with him as he was being a jerk at the award ceremony or in court,
Mm-hmm.
like she still knew who he was at his core, and I really liked that. Thought that was realistic.
Yeah. It was sad and it was cute.
Yeah,
And it was good.
Nice. But yeah. And then the line that made me so happy about him just getting one more look at her.
Oh yeah.
Because that's in the new one too,
I
so
know.
that just kills me when Bradley Cooper says it. So
Oh,
getting
gotcha.
to watch these people do it, I was like, oh, and then he does it, you know, in his
Right at the end.
the last thing he says to her,
Hmm.
just killed me. But that's
Rough.
fine. It's rough, buddy.
It is rough. So I'm looking here on Letterboxd and I'm seeing that there are like a trillion writers for this movie.
Hmm.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 writers.
Yes.
That's a lot. And looks like, so the director is one of the writers. The producer is one of the writers, who, by the way, has produced King Kong as well.
Hmm.
Which I thought was interesting because there's very little in common between these two movies.
Yeah. They're just a little different.
Right. And Robert Carson, Alan Campbell, Dorothy Parker, and Ben Hecht. That's a fun name.
Ben Hecht.
Who apparently wrote a bunch of like Hitchcock things. Oh, wait. It says he was a
not see
screenwriter, director, producer, playwright, journalist, novelist. So some things are adaptations, I guess, of things that he's written.
Interesting.
That is interesting.
Cool.
But Robert Carson is the one that seems to be credited on all of the other versions of A Star Is Born.
Oh, okay.
So I wonder if that's like, do you know if that's like mainly his story?
I don't know. When it has it listed here, it just listed all the names.
Gotcha. Okay.
But
maybe he's just like token given the credit or something.
His is definitely the first on the list. So
Gotcha.
I don't know.
It is interesting.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see how much he was involved.
Mm-hmm. And Max Steiner again as composer.
Yeah, that's
the
pretty cool.
legend. Yeah.
And they had a budget of $1.1 million
At the time.
at the time. So, how much is that today? A lot.
Wait, that's.
Seems like significantly more.
It is post, or it during the Great Depression. So I think because I was looking at it and the way that the money, like when I was doing my calculations for King Kong based on inflation, what would have been like $800,000 today from 1932 became like $1 million today in 1933. So by the time of 37, things just might have gone up enough in inflation that it's comparable. Do you have inflation, Cal?
$1 million in 1930 is equal to about $15.5 million in 2020.
Gotcha.
Probably.
What was the exact figure again of A Star Is Born?
1.1 million. Almost 1.2 million, actually.
1.1 million. Because that does sound like a lot, but
I think for the time it was still a lot.
Yeah, that probably does. I mean, Technicolor probably would increase your budget,
right?
Having music and
big name actors.
Yeah,
I mean, she was a big name for sure. And they filmed it in 3 months though. It was October to December 1936.
Dang.
And it premiered in L.A. and then at the Grauman. Is that how you say it?
Yeah, I think Grauman's
Chinese Theater. It premiered there in L.A. and then 2 days later, it premiered in New York at Radio City Music Hall as well.
Gotcha.
Which is pretty cool. I've been there. I didn't even think about all the movies that have premiered there.
It's a really cool place. I really want to go back there.
It's incredible.
Apparently, my grandpa went to go see, I think, Empire at Grauman's Chinese Theater because he used to live in that area.
So
cool. Yeah. Okay, so it says 1937 dollars. The 1.1 is about $19 million today.
Oof. Whoa.
So yeah, it's just a big budget.
It's pretty good.
That is a lot.
I guess maybe also at the time probably more people were going to see movies.
Yeah.
So it was probably more justifiable to spend that amount of money.
Maybe.
True. It told me how much.
I don't know.
They made.
Depression times, was it?
It made, by the end of 1939, the film had earned a profit of $181,000.
Interesting.
Yeah, so they made it all back and that much in profit. But I almost expected more profit, I guess.
Yeah, it looks like King Kong was profiting quite a bit more. But again, that's like a big blockbuster, and this might just be like...
Right. It said people liked this one. It got all positive reviews when it came out. It was called... the New York Times called it one of the year's best shows. And they said, it quoted, "Good entertainment by any standards, including the artistic and convincing proof that Hollywood need not to travel for its plots. There's drama aplenty in our own backyard."
Indeed.
I like that.
Me too.
Yeah.
What, Hunter?
Hmm?
Oh, I thought you were chiming in.
No, I'm just over here.
I got you.
Okay, nice.
I'm just here.
I can't wait for our new interface in which we're going to actually be able to hear everybody through our headphones, because at the moment we just have to hear ourselves and then like try to hear Hunter
in
like,
the distance.
Sounds very quiet and far away.
Notorious for being kind of hard to hear.
It is
in
true.
Certain situations.
And you've moved your chair farther away.
I am a bit far away.
We shoved him in a corner. Sorry.
Just, trying to pick up less echo from everybody else, but it's probably still going to happen a little bit.
Yeah,
it's
fine.
absolutely happening, but it's okay. You won't notice when you.
It's how it be. It's just how it be.
Yep, it's all good.
But maybe by next week we'll be set. We'll have the ability to control our own headphone volume. We'll be able to do anything. It'll be so good. We can do anything. Or it won't happen next week, and I'll have to bring my computer and interface over again, and I will cry.
Right now, but it's okay.
Ugh. Sad.
Big
sad times.
Yeah. This one also got a 100% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Dang.
Flawless.
I mean, I think it is a good film, and I think that's how Rotten Tomatoes works, right? It's a percentage of how many critics thought it was good.
Yes.
Yeah,
okay.
Over a certain rating score, I think.
Gotcha. Well, yeah, good time.
Yeah.
Certifiably.
I try to find more fun fact type things too, like the last couple of reports I've done, but I actually couldn't find as many this time. Everyone just wanted to talk about how it's been remade so many times rather than the specific make. But it is kind of crazy that they remade it in less than 20 years later. If someone made a movie in what was that? In 2003 or 2004 and then remade it this year, that would feel really fast.
Yeah.
But that's what they did.
Yeah,
we've got
what would
a few,
a good example of that
so
be?
fast.
We've got a few that are a little over 20 years.
Yeah?
I think. Disney movies, I feel like you might count.
Oh, like The Lion King or something like that?
The Lion King's pretty close.
Doing a live action remake, I feel like, is different, though, than just remaking the movie. Well, I guess not. I guess they made it into a musical, so they did
I don't know.
amp it up a little bit.
It is, all of those are done in different formats, but essentially taking the same story and kind of redoing it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, as far as doing a movie again in the same way, much less common, I suppose.
Right.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, I was doing some research, and Cecil B. DeMille remade one of his own movies.
Really?
A few decades later. I think it was actually the Ten Commandments he made once, and then I think he made it again.
Weird.
Which is strange.
Which one is the one that matters?
The latter one.
Forgetting his name.
So
really? Okay.
He made one in 1923, which was 136 minutes. Then he made it again in 1956, which was 220 minutes.
Jeez.
And that latter one
that's the
starred Charlton Heston.
Okay. Weird.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. That's weird. I guess that was just a thing of maybe there's enough advancement in technology, or maybe, heck, I guess people didn't, we talked about it a few times before, people didn't have home movies. So you could either re-release something in theater, you could make it again.
Right. You could release King Kong 5 times.
More than that, I think. It was I don't even know. It was ridiculous.
But yeah.
That list was so long. But yeah, they released it just a trillion times and censored it afterwards. So maybe he wanted to make one that was more, I don't know, censored. I don't know why. Let me expand it, make it 220 minutes, but also make it less interesting.
Maybe.
That's kind of detour, but I really wouldn't want to see the version of King Kong that has all that stuff cut out, because that's basically the only reason that movie's interesting for me.
Totally. Agreed.
Yeah. Anyway.
Here's a question for you both.
Mm-hmm.
Do you relate A Star is Born just in general to La La Land at all? Because some people do.
It did ring of that a bit to me.
It has kind of a similar thing on its mind, for sure.
Yeah.
It definitely feels like, Damien Chazelle saw this movie.
Right.
Yeah.
At the very least.
When it premiered.
Yeah, he's very old.
Just kidding. We love you, Damien.
Damien is 130.
He's my homie. He's my homeboy.
I do need to see The First Man. another movie that Damien Chazelle made that also starred specific homeboy.
It's a pretty okay
of the pod.
Movie. It is good. It's good, but like very different, obviously.
Right, I would think.
I don't know. I it's my least favorite of his movies for sure.
I haven't seen his other 2 films at all. I don't think.
Well,
I haven't seen Whiplash.
Have you not seen any of them?
You haven't seen Whiplash?
I've seen La La Land. I haven't seen
okay.
Whiplash.
So yeah, Whiplash I can just slightly put next to La La Land just because it's like musicy, jazzy. Yeah. It's fun, very different, but still fun and a good movie. So I don't know, I like that flavor of Damien Chazelle, I guess, more than biopic.
Fair.
It's cool though.
But it does star a specific boy.
It does.
That has not yet been called
Very
out.
important.
But it's, it's
okay.
okay.
It is why I happened to bring it up.
Yeah? To talk about
my love.
Ryan Reynolds?
Gosling.
Oh.
You fool.
Johnson?
Huh? What?
Fool.
Ryan Reynolds? Is that what we're talking about every time?
We're gonna talk about.
I mean, Ryan Gosling could have acted in any version of A Star Is Born and La La Land.
True.
And pulled it off.
Because he is that old.
Yes. And that talented.
Yeah. And that Canadian.
Truly.
He's
aggressively Canadian.
Truly Canadian enough to play the same character in multiple movies.
Exactly.
Is that a Canadian trope? It is now.
Yeah. We'll just say that it is. Yes. The answer is yes.
Man, that guy has an interesting music career as well. Have you listened to his album?
I have.
Yeah? You actually have? It's kind of great.
Wait, Ryan Gosling?
Yeah.
You're not talking about La La Land. He
No.
actually has an album?
Yeah, no, he has an indie band.
How did I not know that?
Yeah, I think
I'm a fake fan. Wow.
I think it's called Dead Man's Bones. I think that's the name.
Now I want to look that up.
It's kind of good as far as that flavor of indie rock goes. I kind of really like it. He did that in that period between when he was in movies and when he was in more movies, where there was like a little
2009.
There's that period where like he just wasn't acting for a bit.
That's so funny. Ryan Gosling and his friend
crazy.
Zach Shields.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, I know what I'm doing later today.
It's kind of awesome.
I'm very excited. So, thank you for opening my world of Ryan Gosling.
Of course. He's a talented boy at many things.
With a beautiful face.
Yeah, he's not quite like Donald Glover levels of like multi-talented, but it's okay. He's still pretty good.
Shh, we don't need to talk about that.
Donald Glover's pretty great.
No.
Yeah.
There's also a nice side plug just to talk about La La Land because
fair.
It's a good one. It's
maybe my thing should be trying to bring up Solo in conversations and it never working.
It's just super forced every time. Mine's a little forced too.
Speaking of a guy that can do multiple things, Donald Glover. And speaking of Donald Glover, his portrayal of Lando. And speaking of that, how about that movie Solo, guys? Another movie from 2018.
Speaking of men. Speaking of, have you seen Solo?
Speaking of movie time.
A movie. You're like, speaking of music, that makes me think of Solos. Have you guys seen Solo?
Yeah. Have you seen? Yeah.
Wow.
No, it really was a movie that I watched and was like, I don't remember that movie. And then I saw it a second time, I think. Did I?
I don't recall.
Did we just see it that one time?
I've only seen it that one time.
Dang.
I would like to watch it again.
No, I have seen it twice. I've seen it twice.
Okay.
I would like to watch it again,
we talk about this a lot with the Star Wars story films because I've only seen them both once a piece, but I need to see them again.
Mm-hmm.
But I know you've seen Rogue One multiple times.
About 1 billion times.
Yeah. And I feel bad about that.
It was very good. However, after Rise of Skywalker, I think I would appreciate Solo more.
Yeah.
So
back when Star Wars movies were at least a little bit good.
Sad times.
Anyway,
also, sorry if you liked it.
Yeah,
we're not
us,
trying to shit on your opinion.
Some of us didn't like it.
I mean, we're not trying to shoot on your opinion here. We're a child-friendly podcast That's why we're rated E. This doesn't stand for explicit. It's for everyone.
Oh.
Everyone.
Hooray. Man, it's hard to kind of explain to my grandma why this podcast is rated E. I'm like, well...
sorry.
The thing is, Woody Allen sucks.
How do I say this lightly?
Well, fuck Woody Allen, I guess.
Yeah, that's like the only way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not really... it's just how it is. Mm-hmm.
Oops.
Anyway, do you have more information on A Star Is Born, the film we were actually here to talk about?
That's pretty much it, actually. I know.
Delightful.
Basically the director made some movies, but this was
the one.
I think this one stands out the best, but he had other movies with a lot of Oscar nominations, actually, for like the actors. So I think he was good at working with actors. And
did he slap him in the face?
I'm not at liberty to say.
Are you his lawyer?
Oh.
Don't ask me these things. No, I did not see any more stories like that other than when he was acting. So I guess acting just brought out his rage.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's tough business, dude. I don't blame you. That's pretty much it.
Cool beans.
Yeah,
Very
good
nice.
stuff.
Do you guys feel like it belonged on this list?
I do.
Something I want to ask at the end of these things.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it works. It's fun because it's just a movie about movies.
Mm-hmm.
I
and
love those.
It's cool.
There are quite a few on this list of movies about
Yeah.
movies because
are my
apparently
favorite.
that kind of thing is very critically well received.
Yeah,
I guess
so.
King Kong was a movie about movies.
True. Yeah, that's
True.
That makes sense.
And what else do we have coming up? I mean, Singing in the Rain's kind of that.
Singing in the Rain.
Yeah.
Yeah, Singing in the
True.
Rain for sure.
I think Cinema Paradiso
Ooh,
potentially.
Yeah.
I
Mm-hmm.
know that one.
It's on
The
the
new
list.
edition.
We'll get there in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
Oh
In the
man.
80s. When
In
we
the
get to the
80s.
80s,
Oh boy.
Once we get there. See, I like to
gonna
look
take
at
a
it as if
while.
we are traveling through time
we are.
instead of like, retrospectively looking back, you know.
Yeah.
So,
I agree.
we are currently living in the 30s
Hmm.
and movies only cost about 75 cents.
Can I though?
Please.
Maybe I don't want to.
No,
Oh.
there's like the thing is wanting to escape our time by going
Yeah.
back to the 30s is just a way to find those problems
Right.
The
more.
30s
Say
were
is like
rough.
I guess
20s
that
and
actually
30s and
doesn't
the
get much better.
1900s.
Like things
Yeah.
are weird now,
Rough.
but yeah, I don't think.
I mean,
it
as
would
we're
be
talking about in
better.
King Kong, it's like it's not really solving these issues here.
No,
It's
yeah,
definitely
for
there,
sure.
probably more
Okay.
blatantly.
We'll stick it out here.
Yeah, it's our best shot.
Anyway, it's fine.
Uh, Mm.
Yeah.
All right.
cool beans. All right, ratings. We didn't do ratings
yeah.
last time,
I rated it 4 stars.
but a 4. What did you give it?
5 stars.
Heck
I
yeah!
love these people.
we
I love
did
that
it.
movie.
No, yeah,
That's
it's
great. I also think I gave it a 4. I thought it was a good time.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys currently have a favorite movie that we've covered this
Ooh.
entire time?
Honestly, probably this one or A Trip to the Moon. That
Yeah.
one still really stuck with me.
Yeah, no, it's
I love
actually
that one.
yeah. It's funny that even as we've been going through all these ones and seeing all the advancements in film,
Mhm.
A Trip to the Moon is still kind of in my top 3.
It was so interesting.
Yeah. I think up to this point of the ones that we've covered, I think The Passion of Joan of Arc is probably my favorite,
Yeah.
followed by A Trip to the Moon.
Yes.
Do you have a favorite Hunter, the Gunter boy?
I feel like the General's probably still gonna take it for me,
Yeah,
just because I'm a basic boy.
it was a good time.
I really
Basic
like
boy.
it. It's just fun. It's great.
It's a good time. It really
so,
is.
I feel like that'll definitely change at some point.
Mhm.
Expect to run into some things that I like more, but for now, yeah. Not objectively the best thing I've seen. There's some other very interesting stuff. But yeah. Anyway.
Honestly, the silent slapstick thing is still just probably one of my favorite eras in cinema.
Mm-hmm.
And I really hope, I haven't actually seen it yet, but I hope by the time we get around to The Great Dictator, there's enough of that early Chaplin feel to it still.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
But,
how it
Duck
changes.
Soup was really funny, don't get me wrong, but there's something about the magic of some of that early silent stuff that
Mhm.
just hasn't really been able to be replicated.
Totally.
Oh.
We'll see.
Yeah.
It'll be fun.
Good times. Okay.
Good stuff.
Well, I guess we can plug things.
Yeah.
We got. Do you want to do some of the plugs, Hannah?
I do, because, I know our usernames.
Whoa.
Yeah. Follow us on Instagram. Don't DM us, you little creepers. Just kidding.
Don't do it.
We'll think about it, but that's fine. Movie Overload Pod on Instagram and Movie Overload _ on Twitter.
Rough.
Yeet.
Twitter's mean with the handles, and pod is too much. And
it was just going to be Movie Overload Poe. And something about that just rubbed me the wrong way. Yeah. I couldn't let myself do it.
Yeah.
That's rough.
We could be Movie Opo.
Movie Opo?
Yeah.
How would we do that? Okay, well, we might change our handle, so keep your eyes out.
We'll see.
We could potentially switch things around. But at the moment, quite possibly _ instead of pod.
And
I
all
guess.
that.
But
and
either
more.
way, a good way to find it is, on our website.
Just on the
True.
website.
Which should have the
all that
link.
And more on movieoverloadpod.com.
And
And you can email us at movieoverloadpod@gmail.com.
Yeah. And we got a contact form on our website as well if you want to get in contact with us.
Ow, ow.
And give us a nice rating. Please. Okay. So the way that it works is the higher the rating, the more the ratings, the more it gets pushed out. And then also it's a really good time having somebody write a review and being like, oh, that's a very sweet thing to say.
Yeah, we can read them out. That's a podcast
That would be awesome. I love that.
So fun. So please, we'll shout you out.
Yeah.
We'll talk about your thing.
And
we won't call you names.
And even if you hate us and you think this podcast sucks, please still give it a 5 stars and then just give us all of your critiques.
Exactly.
Just, give us a 5 stars so we still get pushed to other people because, you're a nice person.
We need you.
Even if you don't love it, you know that it's probably for other people.
Exactly.
Or not. But but either way, give us a 5 and then just cuss us out in the description of that review. Do whatever you want. It's fine.
If you want.
I mean, it's not. We'll read it out on this podcast,
it.
so it might be a good time for you to hear us have to read your very negative.
If yours is the only review, I guess we'll have.
You get a lot of airtime.
Well,
and then probably there actually might be a Patreon
maybe
available.
You'll see it if it exists.
If it exists, it'll be on the website.
It will exist, and it will be awesome.
It's gonna be so good.
Worth so much money.
Yeah, give us $3,000 a month, and if we get $1 million a month, we can afford to rent out an apartment, and we can have a specified studio space. So please.
I mean, that's honestly that's a steal.
It is a steal
for this content.
$1 million a month.
Yes.
It's kind of what we deserve. I mean, we do a lot of Wikipedia research for this.
We seriously do.
Oh man,
it's exhausting.
Tough research.
I do this for you.
It's kind of fun.
And I work 4 jobs on the side.
Rough.
Just kidding.
It's how it is. No, I mean, let's see, between working at a taco place and sleeping.
It's not what you think.
I'm pretty much just watching.
Reese, you totally ruined my point. So anyways.
I forgot. I wanted to bring it back around since we're trying to do this now as well.
Mm-hmm.
Hannah and Reese and me, do you have any suggested related watches?
I mean, the other A Star Is Born,
from the other
La La
3
Land
versions.
Yeah, okay, even if you don't watch the new A Star Is Born, you don't want to watch it, listen to it.
That's true.
Because holy crud, the music is.
You may have already heard it because that one song was on the radio.
Shallow is very popular.
Because of
that one.
There's a couple other ones that I think are very underrated, though. Not so much like the pop ones, but yes. Anyway, that's it. Okay.
And what was the name of the one that you said that this one was heavily inspired by? Quite likely.
The Price of Hollywood?
Question
mark?
How much Hollywood or something like that?
Something like that.
I think it was that.
Hang
one,
on, wait,
it's
right here in my notes. I closed my notes.
Oh man,
pull up them notes. You have about 5 remaining seconds before we got to cut.
What Price Hollywood?
What Price Hollywood?
From 1932.
Okay.
Rad. And cool. So those are good. Probably, I don't know. They're at least related.
Decent. Yeah.
So get around to that maybe if you want.
If you
watch
want.
La La
potentially.
Land.
Definitely watch La La Land though.
So we can keep talking about Ryan Gosling.
I can also confirm that I do like La La Land a lot.
Do that.
That makes me so happy because in my film class, there's so many people who are like, La La Land's overrated. And I'm like, what? No.
It's a very good time.
It's okay. It's fine.
They just don't appreciate it, but it's fine.
When people don't like to like things that people liking.
Yes, I think that's what it's about. It's about that more than about the actual movie.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think in that instance for sure.
I try not to be that way. I worry I get that
Me
way
too.
sometimes.
But like, I'm sorry, and I'm sorry I'm saying this, I guess, because I've already started, so I can't not say it. But when it comes to The Greatest Showman, I'm just like,
right.
No.
I'm the same way. Like, no matter how many times someone tries to convince me to watch that, I just am not.
I watched a bit of it, and then I left the room.
No.
I just know that I won't like it.
But I did listen to the soundtrack.
It's so good.
And it wasn't for me.
Oh.
But that's because, again, and I've talked about this before on the podcast, I have a very specific kind of taste in music.
Yeah.
And that is not its fault. That's my fault?
If it can be said to be a fault.
It's different.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Hugh Jackman, and but it's the theatrical side of Hugh Jackman, which I appreciate so much.
I do love a Hugh Jackman for sure.
Yes. A Hugh Jackman.
We're not gonna
Huge Ackman.
Huge Ackman. Here's a fun fact. This is deeply personal and vulnerable.
Oh.
One time I had a dream. It was totally like a movie plot. I don't remember all the details, but Hugh Jackman was my dad. And now I want to act in a movie.
Oh, that's
Hugh
so
as my
great.
Dad. I know, right?
Is this before or after watching Logan?
This is much before. Way before.
Interesting.
Dang.
Yes. And I'm just like, wow.
He's got a few
totally need to like be cast as his daughter.
He's got a few good dad roles.
There's something about it that's like really great.
He would be the best dad. Like even
that's what I think.
Even the version of him in Bad Education, I'm like, I would still want him to be my dad.
Right. But that's kind of the point of him in Bad
Education, no, I guess
right?
Is that
everyone likes him.
Right, yeah.
It's a good time.
Any version of Hugh Jackman can be my dad.
Yes.
Except
Amen.
Maybe P.T. Barnum? Question mark? He's apparently reportedly not a good person.
Apparently.
Historically. But if you watch the movie,
but if it's the Hugh Jackman version, yeah, you're right. There's probably, he's probably fine. Yeah. Anyway.
We love you, Hugh.
Love you. And as we say here at the end of every episode of the Movie Overload podcast.
Hold on, I wrote it down. Sorry. I forgot what it was. Curses.
Oh, I believe in you.
Oh, God.
Stay strong.
Okay, here, lead me in again.
No.
Please. And as we say,
you don't have to edit any of this. You can just be like,
nope, this is what you get.
Fuck. Okay. I don't want to sound immodest, but I think I've stripped gear.
Woohoo!
Why?
Because I did.
Perfect.
Podcast is over.
Excellent choice.
Bye.
I aspire to be like you. Bye.